Good morning. For 24 months, we have been conducting a project financed by the EU about the impact of the mobility package on transport employees. The purpose of this project was to support the implementation of the main principles of the posting of workers. And as part of the project, we also wanted to analyze the impact of directives on this posting. We wanted to check the impact of the new regulations on the transport sector within all of Europe, but we particularly focused on the employees of the road transport sector. This project involved organizations from Italy, Poland, Croatia, Spain, Greece, and Norway. We now have with us our colleague from Italy, and we will ask him several interesting questions concerning the conduct of this project and the implementation of those new rules on transport. So I would like to ask him to introduce himself and tell us what organization he represents in this project. So, good morning, Angel. I would like to welcome all our colleagues who are listening to us. My name is Francesco Marcelli, and I'm the Deputy Secretary General of FAST from Italy. FAST is one of the most important, most representative trade unions for the transport sector in the country. This concerns both road, rail, and air transport and everything that generally concerns this sector. Thank you very much, Francesco. During the implementation of this project, every partner had the opportunity to conduct the research phase. During this research phase, it was checked how the directives from the new mobility package of the EU were implemented, so how this was done in different countries. Can you tell us about the main results of this research that was conducted in your country, in Italy? Yes, Angel. The results were quite surprising, and let me explain why. So we saw that this was similar as in some other countries, namely small and medium enterprises were the main ones who took part in this research. We talked to the employees, we talked to the employers, and here the average age of those people ranged from 35 to 55 years. And what is difficult here is that there is very little knowledge of this new mobility package. And this had a major impact on what is happening in reality with regards to those new regulations. In Italy, with regards to posted workers, particularly in the industry, we have very few of them. Many leave, going mainly to Northern Europe. And according to the data we have had since 2016, it was mainly Italians leaving to go to France and Germany, so north, whereas we are receiving employees from Slovenia, from Poland, and so on. So it is important to say that whereas the older directives were transposed with some delay, this time Italy conducted this transposition process faster. And so in 2023, the new directive concerning employees, posted workers, has already been implemented and transposed. Thank you very much. We are talking about the mobility package of the European Union, but we have not yet mentioned what is this package about at all. Can you explain to us what this package is all about and what this package is supposed to guarantee? So it already guarantees something, it already has results. There was already some fast result, especially within the last year. All conventions and European regulations give certain guarantees concerning the remuneration of employees, particularly collective agreements, the minimum pay. And what was important was that in Europe, we had to implement everything that had been decided top down. What you can see now, and what is very important, is inspecting the working time. So the time driving, the breaks, which must occur at certain intervals, and this is now observed much better. Another item is social dumping and unfair competition. So here we can already see specific results. There is more control over irregular cabotage. So these new regulations are strengthening us as trade unions. We can better control this whole situation. From what you have said, I understand that the mobility package is mainly intended to guarantee better, adequate working conditions for workers in the transport sector and more exactly in the road transport sector. So the next question is, do you think that those working conditions have really been guaranteed in your country? And are these directives being applied in the right way, those directives that form the mobility package? Let me answer using data from our research. So the results are beginning to show up. We have talked to 20 workers, then to 10 entrepreneurs, and here the knowledge is at the level of more or less 50%. Both sides said that those regulations are very technical, both the current regulations and the previous regulations, which makes it more difficult to understand them. But at the same time, gradually, slowly, at least the workers are beginning to understand, and this particularly concerns posted workers. So they are beginning to understand that such more serious controls, inspections are necessary. So in those small and medium enterprises in Italy, this mobility package is really beginning to produce tangible results. One of the most important new items in this mobility package is the new definition of a posted worker. So, what is the new understanding of the term posted worker in the road transport sector, and how can we determine whether a given worker has been posted or not when they're doing their job, meaning when they're driving their vehicle along European roads? So, this package starts by giving a rather detailed definition compared to the previous one. So in our European system, if we consider what posting means, in Italy it was defined in 2003 that this is an employee who is conducting cabotage and transport operations in a member state is a posted worker. So now we have two situations. Transport cross-trade, which is a trade between two member states or a member state and a third country. And then we have cabotage, which is domestic transport provided for third parties at the same time. And then we have temporary transport. In those cases, we're dealing with a posted worker. So the regulations of the mobility package must be applied to this worker. As a result, we have permanent items in the definition of the posted worker. Another new item in the mobility package is the guarantee that has been introduced. So those are guarantees in the transport sector, primarily in the host country, so the country where those workers are received. And according to the directive, those guarantees must be given by the employer. So what are those guarantees about and what specific topics do they concern? So there are certainly 6 or 7 items that could be mentioned, particularly with regards to the older regulations. What is important from the point of view of trade unions is the minimum rest period. And we must remember that transport workers well, for them, the rest period is of great importance, great impact on their further travel. And then the working time must not exceed 46 hours. And remuneration, here we have a situation where the remuneration has been defined in the mobility package, and it also includes collective agreements. Then health and safety at work, which was quite a sensitive topic in Italy in the past. Another item is protection of women, because as we have fewer and fewer men working, this profession is now practiced by an increasing number of women. Another item is equal treatment concerning pay. So we have struggled a lot in Italy to offer equal opportunities and equal pay. Another item is the accommodation condition for workers abroad when they are a posted worker, and mobility package regulates this as well. And then the rational reimbursement of expenses incurred by the worker. So it is certainly interesting to talk about pay, because if an employer pays more than in the host country, then they must maintain those conditions from the posting country. This is defined in our system, in our labor code in Article 266, which is that you retain the right to the salary from your own country if it is higher than the pay in the host country. Thank you. Further regulations, and I think they may be the most important ones, because you have mentioned this is about regulating the rest time and the driving time. And it's also about the use of tachographs when crossing borders. Can you tell us more about this topic? So the use of tachographs and the rest periods and work time of an employee. Of course, particularly in Italy, where the system of calculating the driving time was not controlled electronically but manually, this was a real struggle. Now, in 2025, there will be general electronic inspection or control introduced. So the installation of those electronic tachographs is of key importance because it will end all abuses in this regard. So the professional responsibility will be greater. And this is important because in our system, with regards to penalties, we have the joint responsibility of both the employer and the employee if the working time regulations are violated. So this is about 4.5 hours of driving. After that, you have to have a 45-minute break. But what is important is not only the time spent driving, but also the time spent loading, offloading, having the vehicle inspected. And those are very frequently activities that was regulated by regulations that were then transposed in different member states. Please remember that the mobility package gives the worker a guarantee of rest measured weekly or monthly, depending on the kind of journey on which this employee was sent. So if this was a 4-week journey, then this employee is due the right time for rest. As I have mentioned, when we have even better location systems, so when GPS receivers are installed in all vehicles, it will be even easier to control this. And then two aspects of this control. So we have to consider the privacy of the employee because GPS locators, we have to analyze this as trade unions, whether this will not offer too much control over not just the assets of the company, but over the person. And then employment and pay. So, for example, in Italy, the law says that workers are doing some extra work, and this extra work must also be paid. But this is something that we will talk later during our project.
Sí, el paquete de movilidad también ha modificado otra de sus novedades, lo que se denomina
The mobility package also introduces a new item, another new item, and those are the rules of declaring the posting of an employee. So this is the duty of the employer to declare, to correctly declare that a worker has been posted. And the mobility package also requires that the employee, the worker, must always carry a package of documents that they must be given previously by the employer. Can you tell us about what documents those are, the documents that the driver has to carry whilst he's posted? Of course, we used to have a situation which turned certain topics upside down. For example, the IMI declaration, IMI declaration that the worker used to have to carry Well, in Italy, we tried to use this to combat illegal work. This was about regulating the problem of posted workers. The worker also has to carry all the documents concerning the vehicle, all the documents concerning the journey, so the recording of the working time and the route. This is like a black box of the employee, and this is really the most important topic. And this is certainly something that has an impact on safety of the worker and which makes the employer's rights more rigid. We're drawing to a close of our short dialogue we're conducting here, and I would like to touch upon the last topic. So, firstly, this is once again about the guarantees in the mobility package. So, this is about the duties that the employer has to undertake, the documentation duties where they have to declare and submit documents to the appropriate authorities to prove that the worker has really been posted. And this is also about the topic of those guarantees that you have mentioned before. So can you tell us what documents the employer has to file with the appropriate authority towards the end of the posting period? Yes. This question is to some extent connected with the first one. So here, definitely, this is the consignment note. This is all the data about the national regulations, so the appropriate license of the vehicle, the consignment note with the stamps from the different countries, and all the documentation concerning pay. This was already obligatory in Italy since 2006. So some regulations had already existed in Italy before. Another matter is all the documents specifying the addresses and the places that the driver drove to, and a document proving that the employee was paid and that they received the reimbursement of all the expenses they incurred during their travel. And now, at the very end, I wanted to touch upon what you have already mentioned before. So you have talked about the situation in Italy, about specific processes, you have given us specific numbers, and you have also mentioned challenges with the transposition of this mobility package. So the last question is, what actions would you suggest in Italy to really improve the working conditions and to improve the transposition and the application of all regulations contained in the mobility package? Let me answer by giving some more data. So the package, according to what the workers say, should primarily improve the issue of remuneration. And here, with regards to our country, since we do not have identical pay for different employees, and this is something that was very clearly shown by our research. So now employees are not the old style workers. They now want to have training, they want to be involved in the life of the company, and they also want to have a, a life work balance. And they also want more safety. They pay a lot of attention to safety. So those are the directions in which we have to work, both as trade unions and as employers. In our opinion, in the opinion of our trade union, work is something that we have to also consider from the perspective of European regulations. And at the European level, we should understand and unify systems of trade unions. With regards to the occupational health and safety of workers, what is important here is to integrate the control systems to have exchange of information and experience. This would certainly help a lot. Thank you. So, dear Francesco, thank you very much for the answers you have given me to all the questions that we asked. And I'm convinced that those answers will be very useful for everyone, for every employee, employer, social partner, or any person who may be listening to this podcast. And we have learned quite a lot about the transposition of this mobility package. We also want to make the entire European society more sensitive to those topics, to the topic of the work of truck drivers who are working in Europe. Thank you.